Are you coming from a void where your manifestation will fill a lack? Or are you coming from a void where your manifestation will match your frequency of abundance? Are you coming from a void where your manifestation will fill a lack? Or are you coming from a frequency of abundance where your manifestation will match that? This is the important question to ask when you are creating and manifesting anything, empath. What is it that you're trying to fill? What is it that's empty? I find myself, as I always do, in various forms of introspection. And when you want something, you have to ask what's missing. I began an intensive round of new and varying therapy from the other therapy that I do because I realized that I had a deficit and that I was manifesting a similar situation over and over and over and over again. And that's after years of work, years of self awareness, years of mantras, years of meditation, years of up leveling. And I found myself in the same place that I had found myself previously. And so I had to ask those two questions. Am I manifesting from lack and poverty consciousness? And the answer was yes, which is weird, right? Because you're like, well, you worked on that, you fixed that. Or so I thought, until it presented itself in a different format, in a different energy, and a different vessel, but it was still the same lesson that something wasn't going to match the frequency that I thought I was on. It did, in fact, match the frequency that I was actually on, which was of believing something, of holding a belief about myself that was then mirrored back to me in the actions and the behavior of other people. That's how we learn, guys. So I had to check myself and say, this is not about another person. There are nuances and idiosyncrasies that we all have. But if you find yourself, empath, take responsibility for you, in the same situation repeatedly, or the same energetic dynamic, or the same relationship dynamic, or the same job, you hate this kind of job, but you keep getting that kind of job, then you are manifesting from a place of lack because you believe that's what you're worth and you believe that's all it is. And that's a hard thing to hear. And having anybody give you feedback about that can be a hard thing to hear, but that constructive criticism can change your life. So that's what I want you to hear today, and that's your little quick message. Where are you manifesting from? Because you will get a physical representation that shows up of what your core, your energy, and your soul believes, not what you're saying or what you're writing on mirrors. And so even though I thought I had manifested higher, better, and more in alignment, and it doesn't mean it's nothing that you I'm not saying this to be disparaging to any other person or anything like that, because they are just mirrors. People show up in your life to literally be mirrors for where you're at. So if you're getting the same thing mirrored back to you and you're like, but I did this completely differently, I took a different route, I went about it and followed all the quote unquote rules, whatever your quote unquote rules are, and you ended up with the same result, problem's you, problem was me. That is not to say that, again, there couldn't be nuances and idiosyncrasies amongst other people. Of course there can be, and there always will be. But that other person didn't know how much, or they didn't understand. They didn't understand the parallels or the similarities. I did. Only you know your story, empath. And if you don't trust yourself, then you'll be mirrored back with what your soul believes, or what your higher self really believes. Even though the higher self, we think it's all, esoteric and magical and all highbrow, but in that higher self too are some ingrained beliefs. So what are you pulling to you repeatedly, and what are you bringing in, and what are you manifesting? Loving on yourself, juicing yourself up, telling yourself what you're worthy of is a thing that you will have to do. It's a thing that I am in the process of doing to remind myself how much I deserve, because we will go through that from our various traumas. Another video, maybe I'll make that next. But trauma affects the way that we exist in the world. And so I've really had to take some inventory as of late and do some constructive, when offered constructive criticism, I had to take it as that, not as an affront or assault or an attack, and to realize, like, oh, there's some areas that I haven't fixed that I have thought I was okay with, but because I've allowed myself to be in a vacuum, these issues were held back and I didn't realize what they were. And so I found myself manifesting similar, maybe not exactly the same, but something in the same vein. And it freaked me out, I'm not going to lie. And I thought, this is not a question of just sitting back and asking how or why. I know exactly how and exactly why. It's because even though I was like, I'm going to manifest this thing, this dynamic, this solution, this interaction, this up leveling, whatever it is, I got similar because what did I do? And it wasn't terrible, it wasn't toxic, it wasn't the end of the world, but what it was something that I've done before. And I thought, and my angels were like, this is not, this is not for you. But you believe you deserve it or you wouldn't be here. Now that's when you have to look in the mirror and face your fear. And that fear might be staring back at you. We can be our own worst, definitely critic, but we can put ourselves in positions and then be like, how did I get here? Well, I had to be very honest with myself in my therapy with my therapist. I got there because there is some underlying belief of my value and worth that I would create a situation similar to something that left me in the dirt previously. Even though it didn't get to that point, the similarities were there. And that in of itself was alarming and disturbing to me. So we manifest from our frequency. And if it's toxic, we're going to manifest into that place. And especially if there's lack. I wanted something to be filled up, but I never really put the full level of work necessary into growing in that specific area that I needed to. And so that's all we're here to do, guys, is to continuously improve. So even when I am realizing like, oh, I have more work to do, or I need to double back and I need to check my facts and my long division, if you will, and I need to solve the problem, that is what I want you to know. Sometimes we don't always get it right, but acknowledging that you didn't get it right or acknowledging where your deficit or your lack is what will help you grow. It's what will take you into the future so that you can manifest from abundance and you will feel that vibration. So it will be something that you will actually pull into you instead of what you don't want or what you've already experienced repeatedly. Again, look at those relationships you've been in. If there are similarities, it's because there was something that was not healed in thee that brought those same similarities, good, bad, or indifferent, to your doorstep every time. And I had to, it was like being slapped in the face, but not by anybody, by what resides inside. I had to have a moment where I was like, oh, how did you get here? All of the energy was here, all of the information and intel you needed was here, and you're still here. And that says something a lot more about you than it does about anybody else surrounding you in this situation. This was a choice you made with a magnetic, energetic vibration. I chose to be put in a similar situation. I mean, I say no one put me there, I put myself there. But I chose to do that again. And I think I got the lesson this time. I get clean up on online. That's what I just heard. Maybe for some of you too. I got it. I got it probably the most I've ever gotten it in my life. And that's the magic of people that come in and out of your life, guys, is you will understand exactly why they're there if you want to know. Sometimes we'll act like we don't know, but this person was here to teach me a lesson. Well, there was a few people actually in the last little bit. They were here to teach me lessons and to help bring closure and to help me understand things. And I'm so eternally, eternally grateful. I don't think they will ever hear this, but I'm grateful because it shifted my perspective of how I manifest, and it made me aware that I was manifesting from poverty consciousness. That I was still, even though I have, and you know the thing about that, guys, that will be mirrored. In the last few months, just a quick thing about poverty consciousness and lack, it has been a lot of expenditure. It's tax season, I pay taxes, all of that stuff. But I pay attention to where I was at and emotionally juxtaposed to where I was at financially. And I had big losses, which we all will have in life. I had a client loss, and I told you guys about that. That was really significant to me. It was necessary, and there were many lessons in it. But I was paying attention to how I was not in the highest vibration emotionally, and my finances mirrored it. So I want you guys, and I always say, like, there are various reasons why your finances can be depleted. There's karmic energies around you. Da, 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 da. There's a lot of reasons. But in this case, I think that this was just my angels keeping me on par to understand that we're trying to get your attention. Even though these were expenses that had to happen or things that were beyond my control or whatever, I realized, like, oh, I was manifesting from that space. And so when I was doing my breath work a few days ago, I got really into that meditation, and it like popped up, and my angels and ancestors were like, take a look at this, because you haven't been feeling like you deserve whatever it is, whatever opportunity, whatever goal, whatever job. You hadn't been feeling fully that you deserved it, or you had some trepidation because you still have some triggering, you still have some PTSD. I had to clean it up, but the blame, the onus, and the responsibility is on me to do that. If in the future I manifest 3 more energies and opportunities to work out whatever this lesson is, and each one of those 3 folks are reflecting the same thing back to me, I haven't got where I was at. I'm still manifesting from lack. So juxtapose that against yourself. I can't blame the new 3 people, because those 3 people are only going to reflect back to me what is available. So this is for all of you. Oh, I feel like Delilah. The quiet storm. This is for all of you who have ever found yourself in any kind of emotional connection. I don't care if it's platonic or romantic, and you don't feel like you are being received in the way that you want to be received. Check yourself, please, first. Check what you believe about yourself and what you believe you deserve to receive. The universe, as you work, will send in new magical energies to validate you and new opportunities to get the lesson right. Just had something like that recently happen, literally within the last few minutes. And so it's really interesting. You will have opportunities to have things mirrored to you, but know what your worth is, and know that you're manifesting from the place of your worth, even if you don't realize it. So if you had those repetitious relationships or cycles or things that you saw or did repeatedly, and even if you don't fully, engage like you might have once, like I would have dove in before and been like, toxicity, I love it. Anarchy, I love it. I would have done that. Now, I think higher of me, but apparently not high enough, because I was still able to see something that was not going to be up to snuff reflected back in me, which means that I was saying, to some degree, I'm not up to snuff, actually. Do you guys get that? It's kind of a mind meld, but it's important to understand, and I didn't get the nuance of it. Now I do. And now I will actively work to fill that part of myself up. It's like filling up a pothole. It has to be filled up with self-esteem, with love, with care, to know that I deserve to have someone reflect back to me exactly what I give when I stare, when I look, when I gaze, when I invest, to whatever degree. You deserve that, actually, empath. Not in any pretend way, but you're the first line of defense for yourself. What do you have to say? What's your truth? Where is your point of lack or abundance? Because that's where your manifestation will be at. All right, come back and join me next time, and we will continue to evolve together.